Hello world. That's a stupid programming pun or joke, whatever it might be. I apologize. Being a data scientist has clearly fried my brain. So it's been a long time since I've popped in to say hi. I'm sorry. I've been writing episodes, have ideas for episodes, have this whole little document written out. And then, that whole final step of actually recording, compiling, and uploading. I've dropped the ball a little bit there. I am sorry. So I'll do better, I promise. But let's get on to it. This is going to be, I guess it's essentially the first episode for the year, and it's a news episode because why not? There's been a firestorm of shit that's been happening, so let's just talk a little bit about it, right? Earth Month just ended. Earth Day was on April 22nd, and I absolutely meant to upload then and failed. So, Earth Month. And if you haven't heard of SciStarter, it's a group that coordinates citizen science work, and every April there's a big push where you can participate in the 1 million acts of science. There's projects, events, all sorts of really cool stuff. You can go onto the SciStarter website, get involved. It's not just only in April that you can get involved. You can get involved whenever. But for April, they partnered with iNaturalist, which is an app that lets you log in things around you, whether it's flora, fauna, whatever you want. It's really, really cool. I absolutely recommend it. I use the ever-loving shit out of it. Also the Merlin app if you like birding, because birding's pretty badass and you cannot tell me otherwise. Once you start, you can't go back, I promise. But at the end of April, there is the Big City Nature Challenge, which wrapped up on the 28th. And according to iNaturalist, there was 2.8 million observations by almost 97,000 observers across the globe. It's this big competition between different regions, and you can see which region you belong to. And it's basically a kamikaze event just to over 4 days to identify as many things as you can. It's really cool. I participated. I didn't go too far, but some flora, some fauna, all the good stuff is really fun. And you can participate next year because this was the 10th year it happened. It'll obviously happen next year. Definitely recommend. Now on to some news of the recent weeks. I'm trying to give a mixed bag. There's some serious shit happening, especially if you live in the US like I do. But I also want to give you some happy news, Alright, let's get on with it. Let's get on with the elephant in the room, shall we? First thing I want to talk about is this push by the Trump administration to deregulate the endangered species list. The Secretary of the Interior for the U.S., and sorry, I'm based here, shit's on fire, I'm reporting on. His job is to manage the conservation of most federal land, along with natural resources in agencies like the Bureau of Land Management, the United States Geological Survey, National Park Service, some other stuff. Just if you don't live here, that's what their job is. He suggested that the endangered species list needs cleaned out. That we need to remove species, not add species, because species are on there too long. We add too many. Which is kind of fucking wild, pardon the language there, since species continue to be more endangered. But hey, what the hell, what does it matter when people come first, right? And what the hell do these people know? Nothing. Completely unqualified for these positions, but that's a whole different tangent, isn't it? So I decided, okay, if you think that species are on there too long, you think a bunch of species are added and none ever leave the list, I decided to go get the raw data from U.S. Fish and Wildlife on how many species were listed and delisted. So they had data from 1978 to 2024. And when I compiled it, threw it in my little Python notebook, did a little EDA, that's exploratory data analysis, because once again, data science. There was 1,115 species added to the list, while only 79 recovered thanks to conservation efforts, 32 went extinct, and 22 had a change of definition to their species or something like that, which then dequalified them for being on there. So of the over 1,100 species that were on that list, 133, or about 12%, got off the list one way or another. Species are increasingly at risk from things like climate change, habitat destruction, so why would we try to push them off from being protected? Which kind of segues us into the next bit of news. Again, the administration plans on opening public lands, including parks, for mining and logging. Areas where we are trying to conserve these species. The Department of Interior announced they plan to cut down timelines for environmental reviews of projects that produce coal, oil, gas, uranium, minerals, on public lands. And let me tell you, the minerals category is a wide category. It's a big list. They're also planning to shorten the timelines on geothermal and hydropower, but completely ignore solar and wind as far as energy goes. Meanwhile, they halted an already in progress offshore wind farm, saying there wasn't enough review done. It was already in progress of being, but there wasn't enough. So what exactly is the shortened timeline? They're going from 1 year, 2 years, sometimes more years is how long it took to go through this review, to 14 to 28 days. Are you kidding me? That's not enough time to get data to go through everything. It's not. But whatever. So this quote-unquote mine anywhere approach allows for the potential of mining in national parks and preserves. It's going to be beautiful, isn't it? You're going to go backpacking, sightseeing, go on vacation, and you're like, oh, look, these beautiful buffalo over here on the left. And if you look to our right, you can see this giant quarry mining outfit. Cute. I can't wait to see that slapped on a shirt. Let's move on to the next bit of news, where Trump is exempting coal from regulations on air pollution. Is for, is it 67 coal plants? Something like that. We've spent many years working on air pollution. Do you remember what it used to be like over LA that was just smog and disgusting? You didn't want to breathe. Now you can basically see over it. Like, it's a hell of a lot better than it was before. Quite frankly, the pandemic showed us what was possible, but it really came at a cost of human lives, didn't it? But it showed us what is possible that we can achieve, air pollution-wise. So anyway, the exemption to the air pollutants includes arsenic and mercury, which are both pretty fucking powerful. And all of this is a way, basically, to lessen the burden of providing energy for ourselves, homegrown energy, if you will. And remember, there's a whole chunk of electricity powered by Canada to many of the states down here in the US. So it's to be more reliant on ourselves. Tangential mini story, the old muskrat and his gigafactory had all their polluting turbines running, and they legally were not allowed to do so. So, gee, I wonder why he gets away with that. Okay, I'm trying to step away from just harping on the absolute insanity that is happening here, but let's do a little bit of lightning round news, well, shall we? There's been months-long toxic algae bloom off Southern California that has been impacting marine life. And the bloom produces something called domoic acid. And you might have seen the video of a seal that was sort of, and it was kind of like bent backwards, almost like spasming on the beach from that acid. It was pretty sad, but don't worry, there was people that called, I don't know if they called Fish and Wildlife or one of the conservation groups down there, but the seal was going to be looked at, so have no fear. But anyway, the blooms are natural occurrence, but have been increasing in occurrence since 1998, with the past 4 years having an increase in the domoic acid, at least according to NOAA. That'd be the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Please pay attention to what is happening to them. Next little bit, turning more to animals and conservation. This story, the last story I did had something to do with wolves, and this one does, and yeah, so there was recently a Mexican gray wolf shot and killed by U.S. Fish and Wildlife in Arizona. Now, this one's stupid AF, and God, it's just so stupid. These idiots were instructed not to shoot the breeding female and not to shoot any collared wolves. So what did they do? They shot the breeding female who was collared. You had two jobs, and you fucked up both of them. Congrats on that. The Mexican gray wolf is protected as an endangered species. It is separate from the other gray wolves up north here. Happily, their numbers are growing thanks to conservation efforts and whatnot. And a slight shift to lightning news. That is some good news because, oh my god damn it, do we need some good news, right? Correct. First little bit. Wonderful article that I read. Well, actually, it was multiple articles. Sea turtle numbers are rebounding. Yay! The first article I saw was stateside Florida that populations, thanks to conservation efforts, were rebounding. The decline was thanks to a number of things like climate change, coastal decline, hunting, pollution, humans being humans. But populations all over the world are rebounding, some more than others. The leatherbacks, though, which are, oh my god, they're so big. If you've never seen one, you should see one compared to what a human looks like, because I did not picture them to be that big, and they are gimumbo. That is a scientific unit of measurement. Anyway, the leatherbacks are not recovering quite as well as others. But overall, it's been a hell of an effort to protect and raise their numbers. You've probably seen nature documentaries that show people monitoring nest sites on beaches, or they'll even pick up the eggs and take them to incubators. There's this really fascinating thing that, I don't know if it's all sea turtles, some sea turtles, but they are very susceptible to temperature fluctuations. And as the temperature rises, the eggs predominantly lean female, which then, if you start to have full female populations, it kind of decimates the whole population overall, right? I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Trying to find happy things to talk about can be hard, especially when it comes to topics like conservation and freaking climate change. Oh my god, is it hard about climate change? We're losing species, and our projection of an increasing average temperature continues to climb. Pollution climbs, it's tough. Especially having big gatherings like the Paris Agreement, which, by the way, is 195 countries of the world, continues to fall short on the goals that they set every year. They just, I think they just kind of want to pat themselves on the back, but that might just be me. So, shifting a little bit back, some more happy news. There's this thing called the 30 by 30 initiative. It's an effort to conserve 30% of the global land and ocean by 2030. 30 by 30. The state of Maryland here in the US has hit that goal, and they hit it 6 years early. Maryland is a pretty small state here. They've protected 1.9 million acres from being developed on, meaning housing or farm development, anything. It is protected, which is really freaking cool. And the state says its success is credited to bipartisan cooperation, also awesome, smart use of real estate tax funds, awesome, and coordination among government agencies, nonprofits, and other entities. Awesome. Everything is awesome. So now they're pushing for 40 by 40, but they've had a recent $100 million cut to the conservation funding. But even with that, they're 6 years ahead of time, so I'm feeling pretty hopeful that they're going to hit that 40 by 40. And next little bit, I've seen people talk about saying they would consider buying an EV if the batteries were better recycled, the cost of mining for the precious minerals used in it wasn't so bad. There's a startup in the UK called Atilium has developed a water-based method to recover valuable minerals like nickel and lithium from used EV batteries, avoiding emission-heavy techniques like pyrometallurgy. So that's pretty cool, you know. I mean, they're really utilizing more of that reduce, reuse, recycle that we learned as kids. Another little interesting story I saw was about ferries. Not ferries with wings, but ferries that go across water, obviously. I've only been on a ferry a couple times going up to Canada, and then one crossing like this giant lake to go to a campground here in Washington, which is kind of cool. And they're a cool mode of transportation to get across water. But I saw this story about a new type of ferry in Stockholm, Sweden. It's an electric hydrofoil ferry, and it cuts travel times and carbon emission. It's really cool. You should definitely Google it, but it glides just above the water. And so it goes faster, and it cuts the emissions by 98% compared to the traditional diesel type of ferries. It's really wild to look at. You don't have that resistance from like trying to push a giant hunk of whatever metal and whatever they're made out of like through water. That resistance that slows you down, just glide right on top. It's kind of like, actually kind of looks like if a pod racer was going across the water or something. It's a pretty wild thing. Anyway, go look at it. I hope the lightning round wasn't too lightning, and I hope some of those stories were a little bit uplifting to you, you know. I really just hope you caught some stories you might not have heard. Like, a lot of this, never see any of it in the news. Unless it's, like, really bad. But I think it's important to highlight what's good happening in the world, you know? I just hope you learned a little bit about some new tech, a little hope to curb the despair that many of us are feeling. In the midst of darkness, light persists, as Gandhi once said. I think it's good to acknowledge the bad, but we have to be able to find a way to do better, be someone that Captain Planet would be proud of. I'm of a generation that was raised on Captain Planet, Ferngully, Crocodile Hunter, and Jeff Corwin. We learned to love the earth, and we learned to love the animals that are on it. And it's obviously stuck very well in my head. Very, very well. And basically how I was raised. So I hope there was something interesting. And before signing off, download the iNaturalist. I know I said it at the start, but you should definitely download it. It's fun. Just go for a walk. You basically snap a picture of something that you see and you tag in what city you're in. You don't have to tag the exact spot that you're in case it's like at your own home. But you could just say what city you're in, the neighborhood or something. And it'll pop up and say, this is most likely it. And other people can go on and say, yes, this is definitely what you were looking at. Or no, it's actually this. It's really, really cool, I promise. It's a great way to get, if you have kids, you can get out, walk around, and teach them about the world around you. Learn together. Anyway, stay strong, listeners, and I look forward to bringing you more stories and some research episodes. I am writing some pretty good research episodes. I hope not to bore you with them, just to learn more with you. See you next time.